There's a sound I still hear sometimes, even now, 5 years later. It's the sound of a door closing too softly, like someone erasing you with absolute precision. That was the last thing I heard when I left. No yelling, no tears, just that barely there click as the door shut behind me. Not slammed, not locked, just closed, as if I had never existed at all. I didn't even take the car. I remember walking 4 blocks in the dark with a duffel bag that wasn't even mine. It was hers, a pink zipper, one broken strap. The only things I packed were 2 shirts, my birth certificate, and a toothbrush I never used. I left my own name behind too, just like she asked me to. I disappeared. And you know what the sickest part was? I thought she might chase me. I waited for a text, a call, something like, "Wait, I didn't mean that." But nothing came. Days passed, then months, then whole seasons changed, and she still hadn't looked for me. You probably think I'm being dramatic. I get it. Most men wouldn't vanish just because their wife told them to. But I wasn't most men. I was background noise, a placeholder. I think I always knew that deep down. Her exact words were, "You're like wallpaper, Lel. You're just there. I need space to be more than this." She couldn't even come up with a proper insult. She stripped me down to beige paint and silence and told me to remove myself like I was mold behind a couch. So I did. I moved into a town where people didn't ask questions. No ID, no credit cards. I worked the night shift cleaning vending machines and bus depots. I wrote fake names on motel forms. Once, I slept inside a storage unit for 2 weeks when I couldn't make rent. I stopped talking to mirrors. It was easier not to see my face. Her face always echoed in mine. There were nights I wanted to scream, not because I missed her, but because I couldn't remember what I looked like when I was happy. Not just before her, but before the erosion, before I learned how to shrink so small I could vanish completely. But then, something shifted. Last month, I got a letter. No stamp, no return address, just wedged between 2 flyers outside a coffee shop in Maine. It was sealed with masking tape. Inside was a single photo of her, Vera, standing in front of a conference banner, shaking hands with some politician-looking guy. On the back, in handwriting I hadn't seen in half a decade, was scrolled, "You never really left, did you?" I nearly dropped it. She'd found me, or at least some part of me. The timing didn't make sense. Nothing did. Because 2 days later, I was walking past the town hall when I saw her again. Not in a letter this time, not in a dream. In real life, in my reality, flesh and blood and a smug grin. She was giving a speech, wearing the same dress I remembered, using the same hand gestures. But something in her face cracked when she saw me. Her words froze mid-sentence. People turned to follow her gaze. Then she stumbled back as if she'd seen a ghost. Her eyes rolled back, her knees buckled, and she collapsed right there under the fluorescent lights on a stage built for heroes. I stood at the back of the room. I didn't move. I didn't blink. Because I knew the version of me she had buried didn't stay dead. And I was about to dig up every lie she thought she had gotten away with. The silence in that auditorium wasn't normal. It was the kind that freezes your spine and slows the air around you. Everyone was staring at her, collapsed at the edge of the stage like a puppet with snapped strings. And me? I was still standing in the back corner, half-shadowed beneath a flickering exit sign, my heart pounding as if it were trying to claw its way out. I should have left right then, slipped away the same way I had come. But something anchored me in place. Curiosity? Spite? Or maybe some tiny, leftover thread in me that still believed in closure. I hadn't planned for any of this. I didn't come to destroy her. I came to see if she still had a heart. Instead, she dropped like a stone before I could even say a word. People rushed to her, phones came out, someone yelled for a doctor. I stayed frozen, watching as the woman who once told me I was filler in her life's draft lay unconscious on the ground, breathing shallowly, her hand twitching as if she were chasing something in a dream. And then, I swear this happened, she opened her eyes for just a second and she saw me again. Her lips moved slightly, like dust being blown off a sealed box. She said one word. Leal. My real name. Not the fake one I lived under for 5 years. Not a nickname from better times. She said it the way people utter something they buried deep and hoped never to see again. Like a curse that had returned. I walked out. I didn't run. I walked slowly, as if I had just witnessed something too ancient and powerful to fight. I passed the crowd, who didn't even notice me. Everyone was too busy trying to resuscitate her reputation. I didn't know where I was going, but my legs carried me 2 blocks to a bench by the lake. The same lake where Vera once threw my phone into the water during a fight and said, "Now you'll stop whining about connection." Yeah, I remembered all of it. I sat there for almost an hour, staring at the water as if it could give me answers. And then, just when I was ready to fade back into the background, my burner phone buzzed. 1 text, no number. "You can't come back. They don't know. Please, I'm begging you." I stared at the screen, blinking. They don't know? Who? About what? I wanted to toss the phone into the lake and forget I'd ever stepped back into her orbit. But instead, I stood up and walked straight to the local clinic, the same one she was taken to. I didn't check in, I didn't ask permission. I found her room on the directory and quietly made my way up using the stairwell, like a ghost revisiting its place of death. She was awake, lying in a hospital bed, hooked up to an IV. Her makeup was wiped off, her hair was a mess, and her face was pale. She looked smaller. Or maybe I looked larger now, having spent 5 years learning how to exist without her voice dictating who I was. When she saw me in the doorway, she didn't scream, she didn't cry. She whispered again, "You were supposed to stay gone." I didn't speak. I waited, giving her a chance to rewrite everything. But then she said the one thing I wasn't prepared for. "Lel, if they find out you're alive, everything I built will fall apart." And just like that, I realized this wasn't about love, regret, or guilt. It was about her secret, a secret big enough to make her want me erased, and she thought she had succeeded. Until now. I stood there in that sterile white room, watching Vera's eyes dart back and forth like a trapped animal's. There were no lies prepared for this moment. Her voice was strained, raw, not from pain, but from fear. The kind she used to scoff at when I showed it. "I mean it, Lel," she hissed, glancing toward the hallway. "You showing up like this, you don't understand the damage you could cause." I didn't move. I didn't blink. I just let her scramble through her own panic while I stood at the edge of the room like a memory refusing to stay buried. She finally sat up straighter, as if remembering she was someone important. Her expression hardened. The Vera I remembered clawed her way back onto her face. "You think this is dramatic? Showing up at my event like some ghost? What do you want, Lel? Applause? Closure?" I smiled, just a little. It wasn't even a smile, really, more like a twitch of amusement I couldn't hide. "Closure?" I finally said, my voice rough from disuse. "You told me to disappear like I was trash on the sidewalk. You don't get to ask me what I want." She flinched. Good. I pulled something from my pocket and tossed it onto the table beside her bed. It was the photo from the envelope, only this one had a second picture clipped to the back, a shot of her standing beside a man with dark hair holding hands intimately behind a conference curtain. Her eyes darted to it, then back to me. "Where did you get that?" she whispered. "You mailed me the front photo. You must have forgotten the second one was stuck to it." Silence. Thick, guilty silence. I don't know who he is, I added, shrugging, but judging by how fast you fainted, I'm guessing he's not supposed to know about me. She reached for the picture, but I stopped her hand mid-air. She froze, and for once I saw a fracture, the same kind of crack I used to hide in when I lived under her thumb. You said they don't know, I said calmly. Who are they? The press? His family? Your charity board? She stayed silent, her lips pressing into a thin, pale line. Then she gave herself away. She looked at the door, as if expecting someone specific to burst in. I followed her gaze, then slowly stepped toward the nightstand and opened the drawer. Inside was a diamond necklace, elegant and expensive, not hers. Vera never wore diamonds. She said they were tacky status symbols for insecure women. But here it was, nestled in a small velvet box with a business card taped beneath it. Martin Royce, CEO, Royce Development Group. I picked it up. So this is the guy. She didn't deny it. Her silence was confirmation. You lied to him, I said, my voice low. Told him your husband died, or ran away, or maybe you said I never existed at all. Still nothing, but her breathing gave it all away. Short, shallow gulps, as if the walls were closing in. And then I asked the question I really came to ask. Why did you mail me that picture? Her head snapped up. What? The envelope, the photo, your handwriting. After 5 years of nothing, you suddenly sent it to me? Why? That's when she broke. Her shoulders slumped. Her hand went to her temple as if she were holding back a migraine. I didn't send it, Len, she whispered. Someone else did. My stomach dropped. I thought it was you trying to blackmail me. That's why I collapsed. I didn't know you were still alive until I saw you. I stepped back, the pieces shifting inside my head like an upside-down puzzle. If she didn't send the photo, then someone else knew. Someone who wanted to drag us both into the light. And whoever it was, they were already one step ahead. I left the hospital that night with more questions than answers. The streets felt colder, the shadows leaning in closer. I kept walking, half expecting to be followed, to be erased for real this time. I'd spent 5 years thinking Vera's silence was punishment, but it might have been protection, or worse, a strategy. I didn't go back to my motel. Instead, I ducked into a 24-hour diner off the highway, one of those places with buzzing light panels and waitresses who've seen everything but still smile. I sat at a corner booth, ordered black coffee I didn't drink, and pulled out the business card again. Martin Royce. I'd never heard of him, but Vera's panic told me everything. She was living a lie with that man. And if someone else had sent that photo, then someone else knew the lie too. I flipped the card over. No notes, just his contact info and a small embossed logo. A gold lion's head with the words Royce Legacy Foundation beneath it. That's when it clicked. The charity, the press event. Vera hadn't just reinvented herself, she had woven herself into the fabric of a man's empire. And now I was proof that her fairy tale had rot underneath. I pulled out my phone and typed his name into a search engine. Headlines lit up the screen. Royce Development pledges $2 million to Veterans Housing Initiative. Martin Royce engaged to humanitarian award winner Vera Lee, the power couple of the Northeast. I stared. Lee? She had dropped my name like a used napkin and taken a new identity. Clean, charitable, untouchable. Except now, someone had touched it. I scrolled further and found a press release from 2 months ago, praising Vera for overcoming personal tragedy after the loss of her former spouse. Loss, as in dead. She told the world I was gone. No record, no funeral. She got sympathy, attention, and status,
all built on the lie of my absence. And someone knew it. I sat in that booth for hours, piecing it together. Who would have sent that photo, and why now? I didn't have many people left in my old life. Vera had made sure of that. But one name rang a bell. Mara, Vera's ex-best friend. The one who had mysteriously stopped coming around just before I disappeared. The one who once drunkenly told me, "You're too good for her, Leal. One day she'll push you off a cliff and blame you for the fall." That was the last thing Mara ever said to me. Until now. Maybe. I paid for my coffee, left a 20 under the cup, and headed toward the one place I swore I'd never return to, my old neighborhood. I still remembered the code to the gate. I'd installed it myself when I still thought I could fix a broken marriage with elbow grease and patience.
I didn't go to our old unit. I went to 2B, just below it, Mara's old place. I knocked. Silence. Then footsteps. The door cracked open, and there she was, older, her hair a different color, but her eyes were just as sharp and knowing. She stared at me for a full 5 seconds before speaking. "I was wondering how long it would take you to find me." Mara didn't invite me in right away. She just stood in the doorway, gripping the edge as if unsure whether she was letting in an old friend or a loaded gun. Finally, with a resigned breath, she stepped aside. The apartment hadn't changed much. Same battered couch with a crocheted blanket, same dusty shelves filled with records and old movie scripts. The air smelled like cinnamon and vanilla, and for a weird second, I felt safer than I had in years. She sat across from me, cross-legged on a mismatched armchair, nursing a chipped mug of cold tea. I waited, but she didn't speak, so I did. "You sent it, didn't you? The envelope, the photo." Mara's mouth curled into something between a smile and a grimace. "Of course I did. You really think Vera would out herself like that?" I let the words settle. "Why now? 5 years, Mara. Why not come to me sooner?" She exhaled. "Because 5 years ago, you were already dead. Not literally, but in every way that mattered. You were broken, Lel. I saw it. If I had dragged you into this mess back then, it would have destroyed you. You weren't ready." That stung because it was true. "And now?" I asked. "Now," she said, leaning forward, "you need to see what she's become, what she's doing. You think this is about some love triangle? It's not. Vera is building something dark, Lel. She didn't just lie about you, she erased you for a reason." "What reason?" Mara didn't answer with words. Instead, she stood and crossed to a small cabinet, pulling out a thick manila folder. She tossed it onto the coffee table. My name was written on the front in red marker. I opened it. Inside were documents, dozens of them. Printouts of charity board minutes, bank transfers, emails between Vera and Martin Royce. There were contracts, shell company receipts, donations redirected through ghost nonprofits. Everything looked legal on the surface, but just underneath lay manipulation, deception, and theft. "She's laundering money," I whispered. "She's rewriting history," Mara corrected. "And you? You're the missing piece. You were the first lie she had to tell to make the rest believable." My fingers shook as I flipped through the pages. And then I found another photo, not the one from the envelope. A new one, taken through a diner window last winter. It was me, wearing my red flannel, reading a book. I looked up at her, stunned. "You've been following me?" "No," she said. "They have." I froze. "They? Who?" Mara shook her head. "Not hers. Someone else. Someone who's been keeping tabs on you and her for a while now." The air in the apartment turned thick and heavy. Mara leaned in close, her eyes deadly serious. "Lel, you didn't just disappear. You were disappeared. She had help. She had backing. And the people she's in bed with don't care about you. They care about exposure, about risk. And now that you're back, you are the biggest risk of all." I sat back, my pulse racing. The folder felt like a loaded weapon in my lap. I thought I had stumbled into a personal betrayal, but this was something else entirely. "Who else knows I'm alive?" I finally asked. Mara stood near the window, peeking through the curtain. "I think someone from the Royce circle. A few weeks ago, I noticed cameras pointed at the alley behind your old work building. Inquiries about your death certificate. They're sniffing around. That's why I sent the photo, a test balloon. If you responded, I'd know you were still reachable. But you walked right into the fire, Lel. She saw you, and now everyone who matters knows too." I stared at the folder. "This is enough to bury her." "No," Mara replied. "This is enough to bury you both if you're not careful." I was about to ask what she meant when her eyes shifted back toward the curtain. Her entire body went still. I followed her gaze. Outside, parked across the street, was a black sedan with tinted windows. It hadn't been there before. "That car has been circling the block all day," she said. "It didn't park until you showed up." My stomach dropped. I stood and stepped cautiously to the side of the window. There was someone in the driver's seat, just waiting. "You need to go," Mara said firmly. "Now, before they do something stupid." "Where?" "I don't care, just not here. I can't protect you if you stay." I didn't argue. I slid the folder into my jacket, and Mara pressed a cheap flip phone into my hand. "Use this, one call only. Don't text, don't power it on unless it's an emergency." I opened the back door and slipped out into the alley. The air was sharp and bitter. Somewhere in the distance I heard sirens, or maybe it was just the thrum of my own heart. I didn't look back. I walked until I found a bus station 2 towns over. I paid cash, sat near the back, and pressed the envelope against my ribs like a second spine. As the bus rolled away, I kept glancing out the window, watching for that car. But all I saw were reflections, my own tired, hollowed-out face staring back. I hadn't slept in over 30 hours, but there I was, slouched in the back of a rattling bus, holding the envelope as if it were the only thing keeping me alive. I stared blankly at the seat ahead, trying to ignore the slow burn in my gut, the unraveling of 5 years of silence. I didn't know where the bus was going. I had told the driver I'd pay for the longest route under $40. He took my cash without a second glance. The bus groaned over a bridge, city lights receding behind us. I finally opened the envelope again. The manila paper crackled, and tucked between 2 pages was something I hadn't noticed before, a tiny, silver, unlabeled flash drive. I stared at it, my pulse crawling up my throat. Mara hadn't mentioned it. Maybe she didn't know it was there. I didn't have a laptop. The burner phone was useless for this, so I waited. 4 hours later, we rolled into a sleepy town off the interstate, a place with a gas station, a diner, and a half-lit motel. I got off, paid for a room in cash, and stared at myself in the motel bathroom mirror. I didn't recognize the man looking back. The next morning, I found a community library with peeling carpet and free computer access. I told the woman at the desk I'd lost my ID in a flood. She sighed and gave me 10 minutes. The computer booted slowly. My hands shook as I plugged in the flash drive. It blinked twice. A folder appeared, password protected. The folder was named Greenhouse. My stomach lurched. I hadn't heard that word in years, not since Vera and I lived in our last apartment. Greenhouse had been her term for secrets. "All the messy stuff grows in the dark," she'd said. "Just like a greenhouse, but it looks beautiful from the outside." I typed in sunlight. It opened. Inside were 6 video files. I clicked the first one. The screen filled with shaky footage of Vera in a sleek conference room, dressed in an expensive suit she used to mock. Across from her was an older man with frostbite eyes. The video had no audio, but I could read lips well enough. He slid a folder toward her. She opened it, paused, and looked at him. She said, "Are you serious?" He nodded. She blinked, swallowed, and then her expression changed. Calm, cold, calculating.
She closed the folder and shook his hand. The video ended. I opened the second one. Vera was on a phone call in our old kitchen, pacing and smiling. I couldn't catch all the words, except for two. Fake certificate. It was clear what these videos were. Vera hadn't just erased me, she had staged it. She built an entire narrative with documents, witnesses, and legal papers. She told the world I was dead, and she'd done it with help.
I watched 3 more videos. One showed her signing something with a different name. Another showed her laughing over drinks with Royce. The last one stopped my heart. It was me, a zoomed-in photo of me walking down a dock in Maine carrying groceries. The timestamp was from 3 months ago. Underneath the image was a label, "Verify location before executing final step." I yanked the flash drive out so fast the computer beeped in protest. The librarian looked up. I forced a smile, nodded, and bolted outside. Standing on the library steps, my heart slammed into my ribs. Someone had known I was alive 3 months ago. They had tracked me, labeled me, and prepared a final step. I wasn't going to wait around to find out what that meant. I didn't go back to the motel. I got on the next train heading west without checking where it stopped. I sat the whole ride, heart hammering, the flash drive buried in my jacket. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I just watched every person who boarded, wondering if one of them was here for me. By the time I reached a larger city, Springfield, I think, I had made up my mind. I wasn't running anymore. I used the burner phone and made a single call. Mara answered on the second ring. "It's time," I said. She didn't ask what I meant. She just said, "Where?" 2 days later, we met in a coffee shop outside Boston. Mara brought everything: the folder, a second flash drive, the original photo. I watched her slide it all into a plain white envelope and hand it to a man waiting near the window. He wore a charcoal suit and a simple tie. Federal Department of Justice. His words were simple: "We've been waiting for this." Mara gave a tight nod. I didn't say a word. The man shook my hand. "Your name's going to be protected. You have my word. Witness security can give you a fresh start." "No," I interrupted. "I'm not hiding anymore." He paused, surprised. "You sure?" I nodded. "She took 5 years from me. I'm not giving her 5 more." What followed was a blur. Statements, legal forms, meetings with investigators. The videos were real. The shell companies were real. The laundering, the falsified death record, her relationship with Royce, all part of a machine built on my silence. But silence can only hold up lies for so long. When the headlines broke, they were everywhere. Royce empire rocked by fraud allegations. Humanitarian power couple implodes. Fake death revealed. Whistleblower husband speaks out. Vera was arrested at a gala in front of flashing cameras. They said she didn't even blink when they cuffed her. Royce flipped when he found out the truth. His empire nearly collapsed, but he walked away with the deal. I didn't care. I wasn't doing this for him. I was doing it for me. It's been a year now. I live in a small town outside Asheville, North Carolina. I rent a modest house with a porch that creaks every time I open the screen door. I work at a bookstore downtown. Quiet, steady work. People don't ask much, and I'm finally okay with not explaining myself. Mara still checks in every few weeks. We don't talk about the past much. She's working on a memoir. I told her I don't want to be a character in it. She laughed and said, "You've been invisible long enough, Lael. Let someone tell your story for once." Vera took a plea deal. 5 years minimum, maybe more. I didn't watch the sentencing. I didn't need to. But last week, I got a letter. No return address, just my name on the front. Inside, a single sentence written in her familiar handwriting. "You survived me." I folded the letter, burned it in the fireplace, and as the ashes curled into smoke, I finally felt something I hadn't in a very, very long time. Peace. Not revenge, not closure, not even victory, just peace. Because she told me to disappear,
But instead, I came back, and this time, I stayed.